Welcome everyone. The game you're about to see was in fact a Blitz game, but it may well be the most famous Blitz game of all time. This was played between Wesley and Garry Kasparov, and this game is even short enough to count as a miniature. So one of these guys lost pretty quickly. Let's start this off right away. Wesley had white and opened with knight to f3, g6, and after e4, we could still see a number of defenses, including the King's Indian and the modern defense. Kasparov went bishop to g7, d4. Black doesn't claim any central space, so white does. And after d6, c4, white is inviting a King's Indian defense, which could have occurred after knight to f6 and knight to c3. Instead, Kasparov chose bishop to g4, making use of the fact that the knight is not on f6. Now there is some pressure on the d-pawn. Now the opening is in fact a modern defense. White played bishop to e2, solving the problem by unpinning the knight. Knight to c6, attacking d4 again. And Wesley solved this with the somewhat surprising move knight from b to d2, seemingly hanging the d-pawn, but it's not. If black takes that pawn, then white just takes back. And after bishop takes bishop, white can just take back with the knight, and black just dropped a piece. Obviously that didn't happen. Black played e5, d5, not trading pawns and grabbing some space. Again, black cannot use the d4 square because it still loses a piece. Therefore the knight hopped to e7, h3, asking the bishop what it wants to do, and bishop d7 was played. If black at some point goes for a kingside pawn storm, then this bishop would be very important, so not trading. Now you'll notice that white's knight on d2 isn't so great right now, but white knew how to use the knight anyway. He played c5, giving c4 to the knight. Black took, knight to c4, now e5 is hanging, therefore f6. And here Wesley wanted to keep the initiative and played d6 right away. Playing bishop to e3 first is also strong, and after forcing b6, actually go b4, attacking c5 twice, and after cb4, then go d6. Now black doesn't want to take and allow knight takes d6 check, therefore knight to c8, and now white can take on c7, go rook to c1, and black has a very unpleasant position. Instead, white played d6, knight to c8, again not allowing white to take on d6 with check. Here white did go bishop to e3, and Kasparov played very passively with b6. Much more tenacious would be b5. White would first take on c7, and after knight to a3, black would just go knight to d6, and it's not so clear how much compensation white has for the pawn. That didn't happen. Black played b6, white castled, and now Kasparov went bishop to c6, which unfortunately is a very poor move. Black has to take care in this position. Another way for black to go wrong was knight to h6. Seems logical, black's just hoping to castle next, but now white has knight from c takes e5. Just winning a pawn, because if black takes, then bishop to g5 wins material. What Kasparov should have played was simply knight takes d6, getting rid of that pawn but also trading off one of white's attackers, and after knight takes d6 check, c takes and queen takes d6, white remains a pawn up, but black can just expel the queen with queen to e7, and then go rook to d8, and black is still very much in the game. In the game, black went for this bishop c6 move, and white got an amazing initiative, starting with pawn takes c7, and after the queen recaptured, Wesley sacrificed a pawn with b4. Makes a lot of sense, the black king is still stuck in the middle, so white wants to open lines. Maybe black's best is just to try the castle here, and after bc5, castle anyway, and after rook to c1 opposing the queen, just tuck the king in the corner since the diagonal is very weak, but of course after queen to c2, black is still a lot worse. What Kasparov did, on the other hand, doesn't even put up a fight. He just took the pawn on b4, just carelessly opening up the c-file. White didn't need to be told twice and went rook to c1, eyeing up the queen. Here black decided to try and castle anyway, but it's too late. After knight from g to e7, Wesley played queen to b3. Now you can see how weak the diagonal is, and especially the f7 square is a worry for black. Now let's see what could happen if black is careless. If he just castles anyway, then simply knight from c takes e5, and black cannot take since he is in check. And after king to h8, knight f7 check, black has to give up the exchange. And if, for example, a5, then again knight from c takes e5, and after pawn takes, knight to g5, and white threatens with queen f7 check, followed by rook d1 check, and knight d6 at some point maybe as well. Just terrible for black. So clearly it's too late for castling. Black played h6, at least stopping that knight g5 move. White activated the other rook, but after b5, white's pieces were perfectly coordinated for a sacrifice, and after knight from c takes e5, it's very clear how bad it was to open the c-file earlier. Now white will put pressure on the pinned bishop. After f takes e5, Wesley simply took on b5. Again, the bishop is pinned. Kasparov counterattacked the bishop with rook to b8, but then simply maintaining the pin with bishop to a4. Black now spent a move on breaking the pin of the bishop with queen b7, but thanks to white's excellent pieces, he can break through really easily with rook takes c6. Now that forces black to take with the knight, which exposes the king. Black took. What else can he do? Now queen e6 check. Black blocked with the other knight, but again just piling up on the pinned piece with bishop to c5. And after rook to c8, white again punished black's piece placement with bishop takes e7, and Kasparov resigned. Why did he resign? The knight is still pinned, so black can only take back with the queen, but then the rook is hanging, queen takes rook check, and it's even checkmate very soon. Black's best is king to f7, but then it's a forced win with bishop b3 check, king to f6, queen takes knight check, and after queen to e6, queen takes queen is checkmate. Really awesome game. Obviously Kasparov was well beyond his prime in this game, but this was still a complete wipeout. Black's problem started with his delay in development, especially after that terrible bishop to c6 move. Wesley then capitalized on that as soon as possible and basically never let go. As Kasparov put it afterwards, this was like a game between Morphy and an amateur, and I was the amateur. A very rare humble remark from Kasparov, and he was definitely right. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the game. If you did, please like and subscribe. More great games are coming soon. In the meantime, you can check the playlists. And as always, thank you for watching Chess Student, and take care.